Introducing On the Horizon, a podcast by Horizon Resources Cooperative, supporting farmers and ranchers across northwest North Dakota and northeast Montana. Join host Levi Hall as he engages with agronomy experts, grain traders, and community leaders, sharing insights to help you make confident, informed decisions for your operations, from market trends to practical advice.
Welcome to another episode of On the Horizon. This week we have Ryan Hunt, the Technical Service Manager for FMC. Ryan works very closely with our team here at Horizon Resources for many products that you have most likely used on your operation. Spartan Charge, just to name a few, and then Mustang Max and Vantacor on the pesticide side. We really get into the benefits of a lot of their products, along with some mode of action information on their Grasshopper control products, which I found really interesting. So I'm excited for you to listen to this show.
At Horizon Resources, we're cultivating the next generation of agricultural leaders through the Grow Internship Program. Guided real-world opportunities in work. This is your chance to gain hands-on experience in agronomy, grain marketing, and more. Work side by side with mentors, learn from industry leaders, and prepare for a rewarding career. Applications are open now. Visit horizonresources.coop to learn more and apply today.
Welcome back to another episode of On the Horizon. This week, we have Ryan Hunt, the Technical Service Manager for FMC. Ryan, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Great to be here.
So why don't you start talking a little bit about FMC, who you guys are, and you guys have gone through a big growth phase here fairly recently. Talk a little bit about that growth phase and what you guys are doing nowadays.
Yeah, so in the past, you would have known us, especially around here, for Spartan Charge, AIM, Mustang Max, maybe a little bit of Capture, Pounce and Firadan way back when. That was way before my time, but those were kind of the main products. Then in about 2017, we acquired a big portion of DuPont. When they merged with Dow to form Corteva, we got basically all of their SU grass herbicides. So like your Affinity brands, Express, Harmony, the Gleans and Allies that we don't really use around here, but if you've been around long enough, you've definitely heard of them. And then also the diamide insecticides, which that's where Vantacor comes from, that we've used quite a bit of in the Grasshopper years here the last couple of years. So it really widened our business and got us into more markets and crops. And then we also got their pipeline and discovery center, the Stein Research Center over in Delaware. So that's where they do all the screening for new actives and test things. And every day there's thousands of different chemical actives getting screened and hoping for one to hit. And we actually have a couple pretty cool looking herbicides, some fungicide things coming and in the works, but still decent amount of time out, nothing in the next year or two, but down the road here, some really nice things that'll probably change the way we control kochia for one. So pretty promising.
So now Delaware is where you guys are doing a bunch of research. You guys weren't the ones flying all those drones on the East Coast, were you?
I sure hope not.
Okay. I wanted to get to the bottom of it. I didn't think, maybe that would have been the breaking news moment for On the Horizon.
We're an American-owned company, one of the few left. So I think you might want to ask one of the other guys.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about some of the specific products. I know you teased a couple that are used up in this area. Let's talk a little bit about some of the major products that we're using up here and what we're seeing the best success with.
Yeah, so over the years, and still probably the top product in the area is Spartan Charge.
Yeah.
Residual control for kochia, Russian thistle. If you end up with any pigweeds out there in your peas, that's where it's mostly used. I know there's still a sunflower field here or there. That's where it's, another spot. Mustang Max over the years has been used a lot just for general insect control. Kills grasshoppers, you can spray it on pretty much every crop, and it's pyrethroid, so it's a, broad spectrum, killing everything. AIM used to be used a lot. We're starting to get that resistance to that, so it's kind of falling off. The other thing is Anthem Flex is a little bit newer into the market. It's powered by peroxysulfone, which really got launched in about 2014-15. And it took us till now to really figure out how to use it up here in Frecosia. So we like to put it out there in the fall, and then you can come back and you can plant lentils, peas. You can't plant durum, unfortunately, but pretty much soybeans, most of the crops are growing up here. So it's a nice way to get some residual out there and thin the herd as well. And then we have the Vantacor as well that we used pretty heavily in the grasshopper epidemic there that I think we drowned them all out last year with the wet spring, so we didn't have to use it this year. But, it's there on the shelf waiting for the next run.
The controlling kochia in peas and lentils is so difficult. And so to have an option now that allows you to at least put some pressure on that kochia and still come back into peas and lentils, I think that's great to have a little more flexibility there.
Yeah, and it's not perfect, but it's about the best thing out there.
Right.
And it's definitely gonna thin that herd way back so that your burn down and stuff is gonna have a way better chance of working and starting you out clean, so that you don't have you drive down the field and you see that, well, it must be lentils because it just looks like all weeds.
Yeah.
It'll keep that from happening.
Well, and these crop protection products, they are great tools, but they're only as good as the rotation in my mind. It goes back to, if you're not rotating these crop protection products, you're only going to see so much efficacy. You have to be using rotations as well.
Yeah, definitely. And that's the great thing about the Anthem is it's a group 15. That's a class that in this part of the world, in this country, we really haven't used much at all over the years. It's been heavily used over in the Corn Belt. But when you get over into western North Dakota, eastern Montana, it's been really non-existent. And it's got good grass activity too. So where we've kind of wore out the group 1s and 2s in our cereals over the years, just every year. And then even, spraying like a Select or a Sure in our peas and lentils, another group 1. This group 15 comes in there and it'll really help, break that mode of action kind of backup that we're stuck in.
Absolutely. So we're still using a lot of the DuPont SU products in the FMC lineup, like Express and Panaflex. Can you explain the difference between the base products that's in all of these products?
Yeah, so really our SU line that we're using up here, the Affinity brands, Broad Spec and Tank Mix and Panaflex, and then Express are all powered by the active. Express is tribenuron. It's straight goods. You get Panaflex, it's heavy load of Express with a little bit of Harmony, thiophene-sulfuron. And then the 2 Affinity brands are other ratios of those 2, the Express and Harmony as well. So they're all kind of loaded for different situations. The Panaflex is heavier in that Express because it's used for burn down. So there we want to have more Express because the Express does more to your perennials and winter annuals. The Harmony that's in there is more for pig weeds and annual weeds. So then you get into like Affinity Broad Spec and Affinity Tank Mix. What's the difference? They're both made to spray in crop on your small grains. Really the big difference is the Broad Spec is really a broader spectrum because it has more Express. The Tank Mix is made to tank mix with your group 1 grass herbicides. So like your Axials, your Tacomas, the old Puma, any of those, Discover. And that's because that Express that's in there, if we have too much of it, it'll cause antagonism on the grass. Can't metabolize. It stops the metabolism a little bit and how it works in the pathway so that it doesn't kill your wild oats and pigeon grass as well as it should. So we figured out that ratio on the tank mix to still be able to spike in there and help out with your Canada thistle and buckwheat, but not ruin your grass control from that group 1. If you're using a group 2 grass herbicide, you can use either of them, but I would always use the Broad Spec if I was choosing, just because it's got more of a hammer. And the nice thing is there's really no carryover concerns with either of them as well. Some of the other broadleaf products out there, you got to watch out rainfall and what you plant next year. So that's one real nice thing too, is you're wide open next year when you use those. So
I know you teased some of our resistance that we're seeing out in the country. What are you seeing, and how are we going to combat this problem? I know, like I've talked about, my belief is rotations play such a big impact, or have such a big impact on that. What is your thought on controlling resistance, and how do we fight it as best we can?
That's a good question, because the crop rotation makes a huge difference. But then also when you start looking at it, you've got to know what herbicides you're using and what classes those are, because there's a point in time where, growers think and will say, well, I used Spartan this year, I'm going to use Sharpen, or I'm using AIM for my burn down, I'm using different chemicals and different crops. Well, those are all group 14 PPOs. A lot of times we miss that part of it. And you're using them in different situations, but you're still, that weed out there is still getting a taste of that PPO. And every year, we start to build up that resistance tolerance in it, and starts to explode, kind of like we've seen now with the foliar, at least. The nice thing is we're still seeing the residual piece of it work, especially with the Spartan. But, where we have that resistance, like your AIM and Sharpen, those are pretty well done for once that resistance has rolled in. But that's not everywhere either. It's this field here still working, go down the road a little ways, it's not. But I mean, the way the wind blows, it ain't going to take very long before it's, done and gone. And we've got to start using some other products, which gets tough in these pulse crops because they're smaller acreage. So there hasn't been a lot of work done on a lot of other things, options. I know Canada has a few different things going on, and Brian Jinks over at the Minot Research Station is doing a ton of work on it and seeing some things, but it's not an overnight process either to get a label for those things.
Right. Yeah. I think I was told one time it takes 9 years and over $1 billion to bring a product to market. And I don't know if those numbers are still accurate, but I would guess the 9 years is probably still pretty close. If anything, there's going to be more regulation that pushes that out farther. And the $1 billion, I mean, we all know how that goes. It only goes up. So
yeah, it's all of that, if not more. It's right in there. I'd say the 9 years is longer too. Just our dealings with the EPA and trying to get things through. It's you get a date of this, and all of a sudden, we need another 3 months. Pretty soon you missed a season of selling it, and that seems to be kind of the common trend right now. I think they're pretty understaffed over there and too much on their plate.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the areas I specifically wanted to touch on was group 1 resistance with green foxtail. What do you guys have for a product that can help our growers out? Yeah,
so that's really where our pyroxasulfone active shines. So Anthem Flex that we're selling in front of lentils. You can use in front of the peas, soybeans, if you got sunflowers as well, or Authority Supreme, which is a combo of Spartan and Anthem. That Anthem that's in there, really long residual, and it's, like I said earlier, group 15, so it's changing it totally. And it is just lights out on green foxtail or pigeon grass. So that's a spot where you can put that out there, and that group 1 resistant pigeon grass is going to go bye-bye as long as you get a little rain on it.
Yeah, absolutely. What about some group 14 herbicides we're using? How do we get the best performance? And, what kind of water volumes, surfactants should we be using? Any tips for those group 14s?
Yeah, so the group 14s are the PPOs. Residual, there's the residual groups, and then there's the low residual ones. But either way, even the residual ones have some burn down activity. And it's kind of like painting a wall. You got to have coverage. The more water you use with them, the better they work. That's why we always say with AIM or Spartan Charge, and you'll see even the other companies with some of them, it's 10 gallons minimum. And then if you throw in some MSO and AMS with it, it really brings it to a whole nother level and really turns them into a torch on any weeds that aren't resistant to them. So the big thing is minimum 10 gallons of water, get that MSO, AMS, and then your nozzles as well make a big difference. Probably not as much up here because you don't have as many soybeans, so the dicamba thing. Right. But those nozzles that they wanted everywhere for dicamba are not the nozzles you want for these PPOs. I mean, you want to go back to the old flat fan and really just cover that plant as much as you can, cover the ground. And you'll even see a difference in the residual performance between 5 and 10 gallons of water. Everyone thinks, I can just go out and spray my Spartan or Anthem, whatever, with low volume because there's no weeds out there. I might be doing it in the fall, but you can go out there and do 5 gallons and 10 gallons right next to each other, and you'll see a difference next year in the residual.
Absolutely. So one other thing, and you've touched on this a little bit here today. I've been up here for 5 years. I've been at Horizon Resources, and every harvest, I feel like I'm racing the grasshoppers to the crop. I feel like they're my biggest competition more than any of the neighboring elevators. So let's talk a little bit about grasshopper control. First of all, as a grain buyer, am I going to be out of the woods here? Are we going to see an end to the grasshoppers? And as a producer, if there are some grasshoppers out there again, what do we got to do to control them and mitigate that?
Yeah, so I don't know that I can predict if we're done with them. I don't think we're ever going to be done with them. You know, that I think it was a 3-year stretch there. We had them really, really bad. That was, in my 15 years, the worst I've ever seen them. Usually it's every second or third year we get them bad, and drought conditions make it worse. I think we really got saved last year with that wet spring, drowns them out. If you get enough rain, they get, they kind of get a disease and they just kill each other off, really. A little natural selection kind of for them. That was probably the best thing to happen, but they will be back. They're always around, just depends on the conditions.
Right.
If they're low pressure and whatnot, you can get away with just, your cheaper Mustang Max pyrethroid product, going out there and spraying them once. But when they get to those levels like we had them, they just keep coming and coming, and they're eating the fence posts and any wood anywhere even. That's where that Vantacor really, really shines. It'll do great in the low pressure areas too, but guys are gonna cough at it, and it's not cheap.
No,
it's
no,
it's up
not.
there. But when you start having to spray your Mustang or Lambda 2-3 times, you can go out there with 0.7 of an ounce of Vantacor and only have to go across the field once and sleep at night. And it's like, what's your time worth? And then you add in the application costs and the other chemical costs for that 2 or 3 passes. That's where the Vantacor, it's got that long residual, and it's really safe to work with. You hear more and more of people using the pyrethroids and getting sick from them and the stinky and whatnot. Most of them are restricted use products. The Vantacor is not a restricted use product, so it's very, very safe. The pyrethroids kill those bugs basically by disrupting their nervous system. That's kind of why, if you or I breathe in too much of it, you start to feel sick too, because it's starting to mess with our systems. The Vantacor basically has to be ingested by the bug, and then there's a protein in their gut that turns it toxic, and that's what kills them. So it doesn't kill everything out there, which is actually a good thing. I know a lot of guys want to just kill everything out there, but so you're safer on your butterflies, your honeybees and stuff. What it does kill, it kills really, really good though, and has good long residual. So like grasshoppers and any sort of worms is what it's going to be dynamite on, because they have that protein or enzyme inside them that turns it toxic. So you get it on the plant, and it stays in the plant on the plant for a couple of weeks, depending on the conditions. So you can get 2-3 weeks control of those hoppers out there with it.
I think that's impressive, and it's pretty rare we see something with the efficacy of Vantacor, especially in the pesticide market, that's not going to be a restricted use. So I think that's great. I love that it's definitely a safer product for our member owners to use. So yeah, I'm a big believer in it. There is a little bit of sticker shock when you go in and you see this is how big this bottle is and it costs how much.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But your use per acre is definitely it's a small use per acre type thing. So but yeah, there's going to be some cost to it. But you're going to have a crop to put in the bin.
Yeah, exactly. I know that first year of the grasshopper epidemic there, we just gave away a few jugs to some growers that had been out spraying. And, I think it was over in the Ray area, one of them, the guy sprayed one field, and his neighbor had been over there 3 or 4 times across the road and had no crop. And he's just, what the heck did you do?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So that's a real life trial that proves that it works. So the last thing you teased was some R&D. You said that you guys have some exciting products coming down the line. Can you talk about them at all? Can you tell us anything? What can you tell us? And get us a little bit hyped up about it, Ryan.
Yeah, it's I could tell you, but I'd have to kill you. No, I'm just kidding. It's there's information out there for them, but they're still pretty top secret, right? Like I don't even get to work with them. I get to see them in the field a little bit. They're all numbered compounds, but there's 2 herbicides in the works. The one's really, really good on water hemp and Palmer amaranth, which, doesn't do a lot for us.
Yeah, more east side of the state. They've started to see some pressure on it. They can keep it. We don't want it.
Yeah, exactly. It hasn't seemed to move over here. It seems like the kochia keeps that out. But the other one that looks promising, it has some good kochia activity, and it seems to be safe on all the broadleaf crops. It's really kind of crazy to me how it looks like every broadleaf crop we plant in there, whether it's peas, dry beans, sunflowers, soybeans, it's safe, and it's controlling the kochia and the other broadleaf weeds. So that one, I think that's on pace for about 2031. Okay. So I mean that's it's a long ways out, but it is coming and on its way. So that's one thing, and it's a mode of action that is never been used in the U.S. The other one is a brand new mode of action altogether. So we've got a couple different, really cool things there, because that's what we need.
Right. That's very exciting. You don't hear new modes of action very often.
Yeah, because right now we're trying to solve all the problems, put Band-Aids on it with how do we use these other products and modes of action that we already have differently to, control this pest that we can't anymore. But yeah, the 2 coming, the brand new mode of action, the mode of action that's only ever been used in Europe, that's 2 new things that really, really could change some things. And then we've got a couple fungicides out there. We've been doing some work at the with Dr. Wunsch over there in Carrington, and his, he's got the misters and stuff out there. Really, really does a good job with the lentil and pea disease research. And we've got a few things there that look pretty nice and promising. Just be another option for the growers in the Pulse country up here to help with their disease management. So
awesome. Well, Ryan, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's a good time.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to On the Horizon. If our conversation today sparked your interest, make sure to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform. Stay connected by following @Horizon Resources Co-op on Facebook and Instagram, and explore the world of agriculture with us. We're excited to continue bringing you real conversations with Horizon Resources industry partners, member owners, and employees, discovering more about your local neighbors and community friends. Until next time, keep looking towards the horizon.
Horizon Resources, solutions for your success.
This podcast is for informational purposes only and is not to be used or considered as an offer or a solicitation to buy or sell commodities. Horizon Resources does not make any representation, warranty, or guarantee as to the completeness, accuracy, timeliness, or suitability of any information contained within any part of this podcast. Horizon Resources does not accept any liability for any loss or damage, including without limitation loss of profit, which may arise directly or indirectly from use or reliance on such information. Whilst the information provided has been obtained from sources believed to be reliable, Horizon Resources does not attest to its accuracy or completeness. Horizon Resources reserves the right to change any source without restriction or notice. The information herein is indicative only and is subject to change.